over here at our work area where I'm going to show you how to shut the SP2009 machine down at the end of the night, at the end of the job, and then also show you how easily we can switch from the pumping the polyurea PE85 joint filler to the TX3 grout coat. A couple of things we've made changes on since we started this filming process is we realized that sometimes the designation on the tanks of B side, A side is confusing because you guys also pump RS88, the Mesker-Maguire product, which has the European standard, which is opposite of our American standard of A side, B side. So to make everything much simpler and also foolproof, we've decided that we'll put these labels on. This says tinted polyol. We put it on the side of the machine. So this is the side where the pigmented product goes. On this side, we're labeling it as clear ISO. This is where the clear product goes. So if you just pay attention to my product being clear, my product being tinted, that's the high-tech product, and also the Mesker RS88 being either tinted or clear, and pour them into the same tanks, you'll never have a problem. No longer think about A side, B side, just think about tinted polyol, clear ISO. The other change that we've decided to make is on these on-off valves at the top. We've decided this is a better system. We're going to start incorporating this on all the new machines where we've got this simple close open valve system for the air release. This is, like I said, where if we have product in here and we start to pump it, will form a vacuum. So you need to open it up, and then when you're done, you go ahead and just turn this and just close it. So that's going to be a change. However, the biggest change that we've made is here on the manifold. We've realized that when you guys are switching from polyurea to the TX3 or needing to purge out the balance that's in the tanks or clean out the hoses, that undoing the hoses is very, very sloppy and very messy. So we've gone ahead and drilled holes up in the manifold here, and we've attached these valves so that I'm going to show you the entire system using these valves and never having to take off the hoses. So now what we've done is we've gone ahead and finished filling the joints out on the job. We have extra material inside here. Go ahead and take a look. We have extra polyol black. We have the clear ISO. So if we want to leave this in the tanks and come back the next day, the best thing you can do is take your ISO and fill it all the way to the top, reduce the air pocket, put a piece of plastic, put the lid on, and close the valve. And then at the manifold, this is what we're going to do. Obviously, we've got our mixing nozzle here that's cured up. We need to remove this. And the first thing we want to do is take our grease gun and start pumping the product out till we see grease. That's on the ISO, the clear side. We'll pump it on the black polyol side till we see grease coming out of both sides, and we'll wipe a little bit of excess off right there. If I really wanted to be careful, I would also pump it through the valves. So the first thing I need to do is put on my nightcap. That was this little white piece that we had here. I'll put this on, secure it with the retaining nut, and then one side at a time I will open up the valve on the ISO clear side, stick my grease gun back on my Zerk, start pumping through here, and as you can see the grease comes out of the valve. Turn it off, open the other side, reattach the grease gun to the B side, and I'll start pumping this. And what we're doing is we're just sealing the air out of the entire system. Now I'll turn this off. So now what we've done is we have completely sealed this end of the system through the manifold of the holes and also through the valves. So now it's shut down. It's ready to sit here overnight or for a few days. On the tinted polyol side, I would not fill that up. I would leave that down, and then when we come back to start up the next day, stir up what's inside there, stir up what's in your bucket and pour it in, fill it up, and then go ahead and go to the manifold here, take this off, turn it on and pump out the grease, and then attach a new mixing nozzle. So that's how we do it at the overnight, you know, from one day to the next. However, we're also going to show you how to empty these tanks back into the original 5-gallon pails that we poured out of, and save the product. And we're going to show you using these nice valve systems to make it a very nice, clean, easy system. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and show you how to take the extra product out of the tanks, pump them back into the buckets, and save them for the next job. Remember, I had taken the manifold here and I had greased this end. I had greased the valves also. First thing you want to do is come over to your purge bucket, open up the valves, make sure you've got your pump turned on, get your power on, and first thing I do is come back up to the handle here, make sure my speed control is down, turn on the machine, and go ahead and watch the valves there. I'm going to start pumping, and what's going to happen, I'm first going to pump out the grease. So the grease is gone. It's out of the valves. Just to be sure, I'll turn off the valves. Now, what we do on the hoses here is the white hose is the ISO, the black hose is the polyol. I come back to my buckets here, I redirect the valves over the buckets, turn them on, go back up to my handle here, turn on the machine, and then start flowing the product out. Now what I'm doing, I'm emptying our tanks and saving the product back into the buckets. Okay, now we've pretty much got all the product out of the tanks, out of the hoses. Just to be sure I don't make a mess, I'll go ahead and turn off the valves. Okay, and I'll move those away from the buckets, set those down. It's a good idea to make sure you seal up your buckets. So seal up the A side, seal up the B side. Now, let's go back up to the tanks here. Let's take a look. We have a little bit of residue at the bottom of the tanks. So if I'm going to go ahead and clean this out really well, first thing I want to do is take xylene and pour the xylene into the tanks. Each side. Xylene is a very good cleaning agent, plus it does not hurt the pump seals at all, and it's readily available at any large hardware store. So grab yourself some xylene. Don't use acetone. Okay, so put some xylene in there. Then we'll go back over here to our valves. I'll take and direct our valves over our purge pump. Open them up. Go ahead back up here to the handle. Turn it on. Then turn on the speed, and as you'll start to see pretty soon, we'll get xylene coming out. And we're seeing black coming out of the polyol side. So we know we still need to keep going until we see the xylene. Pretty soon we'll see it coming out. That's good. Now, if I was going to clean this machine out completely until the next job, the next thing I would do is go ahead and direct the valves over each tank, open them up, and now start pumping xylene again. And what I'm doing is I'm recirculating the xylene through the whole system. So I'm taking it and running it through the pumps, through the hoses, through the entire hose and pump system to get it really nice and clean. So my suggestion, if you're shutting the machine down completely and waiting until you come to the next job, do this for 10 minutes. It'll make sure that it's really nice and clean. All right, now we've gone ahead and ran it for 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and turn off each valve. I'm going to come back over here to our work area. And now, if I was going to shut this machine down till the next job, I would go ahead and pump out the xylene into the purge tank, purge bucket, and then I would use regular motor oil to purge out the xylene and leave the oil in the hoses, in the pumps, in the manifold, so no air gets up inside. However, at this process out here on the Questmark demonstration floor system, we're going to show you how to now take the machine and switch it over to the TX3. So remember, I've got xylene in the hoses, I've got it still in the tank. Best thing I could do now is come over here. I've already been shooting it through the hoses. Now I've got the valves off. I'm going to take off the nightcap. Take off the retaining nut, the nightcap. Now we probably have a little bit of grease in here, so we want to get that cleaned out. I'll go back up here to the handle, turn this on, turn up the speed, go ahead back and look. Now you start to see the xylene coming through the manifold. Now we're cleaning out the manifold. So we've cleaned out the hoses with the xylene. Everything is good and clean. Now we're going to be ready to switch over to the TX3. I'll just keep pumping that until there's nothing. Okay. Go ahead and turn that off. Go ahead and set this down. Now what we'll want to do is come over here and look at the tanks. At the bottom of each tank is we put a nice stainless steel screen, which it's a good idea at this point just to take a rag, unscrew the screen out, and just wipe it clean, and then also wipe any excess xylene that might be at the very bottom of the tanks. It's got a built-in thread, very simple. Then while you're down here, take that xylene, wipe it around, and go ahead and wipe the inside of the tank. It's a nice way to keep everything nice and clean. Never know what color you might be using next, so don't fail to clean this out. Okay, once I got this cleaned out, the screen is nice and clean. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall, and then I'm going to do that on each side, the polyol tinted side as well as the ISO clear side. Okay, we've cleaned out the machine. We've used our acetone. We haven't put the oil in because we're not really shutting it down. What we're doing is we're going to show you how to now load in the TX3 grout coat that Hi-Tech makes. Now, we've got the A side, we got the B side. On this job, we had a black tin pack that we added, so we had to make sure we stirred that up really well before we poured in the machine. So you do that for about, like I said, about 60 seconds after we add the tin pack. I'm going to go ahead and pour it into the polyol side. Like I've told you, it's very, very important to make sure that you do not pour it into the B side, excuse me, the A side. So, this is a 2-gallon unit. It's a 3-gallon tank, so it easily pours in. Got that done. Set that to the side. I'm going to put the lid on to make sure we don't get any contaminants on it, or inside it, I should say. Go ahead and put the polyol lid on. I'll take off the ISO lid. And we'll come back here and grab our A side. The A material does not have to be stirred up. It's fine just the way it is. Once again, I'll go ahead and put the lid on this so I save it. Now we have our ISO and polyol TX3 loaded in the machine. We have our hoses cleaned out of the polyurea. I'm going to come back over here to the purge bucket, and what I'm going to do is keep my valves off. I'm going to start pumping the TX3 through the hoses out through the manifold. So I'll turn it on, start pumping. Pretty soon we'll start to see our product coming through. We'll probably see a little bit of acetone first, which is that. Now there's our TX3. Just verify that I have a good flow of material. Take that off. I'll go ahead and grab the same mixing nozzle that we use with our polyurea. Makes it a great thing for you guys. Don't have to think about having two separate nozzles. Install the nozzle, secure it with the retaining nut. Okay, now we have our nozzle secured. These valves are shut really tight. Now, before we do our grout coat, we're going to come back over to our purge bucket here, turn on our machine, start to speed up the volume, and now we're going to see our TX3 coming through the nozzle. Verify that we're getting it fully mixed, turn it off, then we're going to go do our grout coat system.